Aberdeen fans have a trip to Hampden to look forward to in the new year after the lads came through their quarter-final tie last night with Partick Thistle. Full-time score at Pittodrie, Aberdeen 4, Partick Thistle 1. It means that Aberdeen have secured their return to Hampden for the first time since 2018. Duke has now scored 6 goals in 14 club appearances, and Aberdeen have now won 7 from their last 8 home matches. And the attendance last night was 9,323. So the victory means that we will face Rangers at Hampden. Ties to be played on either Saturday the 14th or Sunday the 15th of January. And I'm already seeing online some people are suggesting that we could possibly get the Sunday 3 o'clock slot. But this is just people talking on Twitter. So let's wait and see what happens once we get confirmation. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg AB TV this Thursday night. This is the review show looking back on last night's victory against Partick Thistle. And wasn't it good? For 45 minutes. Now this show is just about looking back. So I'm looking for your interaction tonight. So get in touch on YouTube, drop us your comments, and I will do my best, as I always do, to read out as many as I possibly can. So what did you think of the game last night? It was very comfortable in the end. I think Ryan Duncan's goal was absolutely magnificent. What a future this kid has had. Hayden Coulson got man of the match again. Oh, this boy is just unbelievable. But there were some worrying moments last night, but let's not put too much of a dampener on it, because at the end of the day, the job was done. It was all about the result. It was all about getting to Hampden. It was all about getting to the semi-final. How fantastic will this be for the fans to get a trip down to Glasgow in the middle of January? Right, let's begin with the thoughts of the manager. So this is what Jim had to say in his post-match press conference. The objective for these cup competitions is to make sure you're in the hat, and we've done that. First half, I thought we were excellent against a very good Partick Thistle team. The remit was to get to Hampden. We have to believe we're capable of going all the way. Otherwise, and this is interesting, what's the point? I couldn't agree more. So, coming up in just a moment, I'm going to be speaking to Northsound 1 sports editor Dave Galloway. We talked about today's big news coming out of the city about the possibility of Aberdeen's new stadium being at the beachfront and the cost of that. And then later on, as you know, I want this show to be as much for you as it is for me here. And we'll be speaking to Aberdeen fan Reece Sutherland, who joins us from Nottingham. But as I said, keep your comments coming in. So without further ado, let's introduce Dave. Let's get him on. We spoke for 10 minutes or so because the stadium chat took up quite a chunk of our discussions tonight. We also spoke about last night's game at Pittodrie, but we began our discussions by the big news coming out of the city. Here's Dave Galloway. It's great to see you. Thank you again for jumping on tonight, as always. Okay, let's start tonight's chat with the big news coming out of the city about the potential new stadium. So the local newspapers have said that it could cost up to £80 million, but some studies are suggesting that it could generate an income of about £1 billion for the region. Can I, first of all, get your instant thoughts on that?
That sounds like terrific news. We don't have a breakdown of how this £1 billion is going to come about, but we'll have to take Dave Cormack and Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce at their word. They have worked very hard on this. They've got the figures. The proof of the pudding, though, is in the eating. However, if that is what it could potentially bring in, then it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Mm. There was a couple of points that stood out for me when I was reading the article. The first one was the stadium capacity. They're quoting anything between 16,000 to 18,000. I understand that. I get that. But I think if we have any ambitions of being this top 100 football club, I think we've got to have a stadium of 20,000 maximum. What do you think?
I would tend to go with that as well, but at the same time, at the risk of being accused of sitting on the fence, I can understand where the chairman is coming from in this instance, because he has previously said that he would rather have a smaller stadium that was absolutely packed more often than not, rather than have a bigger stadium with, thousands of empty seats. And I guess if you're looking at, average crowds that Aberdeen have had, even if you go back to 1983, the season we won the European Cup Winners' Cup, of course, as if you needed reminding, as the memorabilia behind you will be a great reminder of. Love it, by the way. That season, from memory, Aberdeen's average home gate at Pittodrie was about 17,500. So I guess, again, Dave Cormack has taken all these factors into consideration. But, I would like nothing better than to have Aberdeen backed by 20,000 fans every week. Unfortunately, that seems to have been the exception to the rule. If you go back over the years, there's not many 20,000 crowds, unfortunately.
No, I totally get the point. I really, really do. The other point that stood out for me was about the potential to have an extra 350,000 visitors to the region, to the stadium, and to the location of the stadium. Again, I applaud the ambition, but I can't see where an extra 350,000 visitors are going to come from, because what sort of events would they have to put on a regular basis to try and attract those sort of numbers?
Like you say, terrific ambition there, Ali. I would say they would have to make it a concert venue,
Yeah.
make it available for, big artists and big bands to come up and play, and so that when huge rock bands, for instance, are doing stadium tours, they'll go, oh yeah, that looks good, beachfront stadium, let's go there. Maybe that's what they're trying to tap into. I certainly think that the location of the proposed new beachfront stadium, it's much further away from the neighbours, if you like. I can understand why the neighbours are not very happy on the rare occasion, or they haven't been very happy on the rare occasion that concerts have been held at the stadium, because there's housing on all sides basically. That wouldn't be the case with the new stadium, and it would be much better sound wise. It would be a lot better soundproofed. It would have a roof all the way around. So I think the noise would be contained a lot better within the stadium complex. So I certainly think that would be well worth doing, because if this could become the must go to venue for the north of Scotland, it could attract a lot of big names, I would have thought.
Yeah. I have to be honest, because I'm very nostalgic when it comes to stuff like this. I really hope that the stadium does eventually end up on the beachfront, because travelling to the stadium, down the beach road, seeing the beach ballroom and Cadonas and everything in sight, for me is it's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. I've known nothing else. Like so many others, we've known nothing else. So I really hope that they get it over the line, and I really do applaud their ambitions. Right, mate, let's talk about last night's game. I know you were at the game last night. Give us your general thoughts on how we played.
I thought the first half, especially the first half hour, Aberdeen were as good as I've seen them for many a month. They were knocking the ball about really well. Scored 3 times, of course, in that kind of purple patch. Yeah, admittedly, to some extent, Partick Thistle were maybe architects of their own downfall by their manager's admission. They turned the ball over 3 times and Aberdeen punished them. They were clinical, but they were playing some sparkling football. And once again, Mr. Duke was absolutely brilliant. What an absolute iconic fans hero he is really turning into. What a smashing guy. He's got pace to burn as well, hasn't he? the first half, terrific, especially the first half hour. After the break, Aberdeen, I'm not saying they faded, but they didn't quite reach the heights. By the manager's own admission, by Jim's own admission, he said he tried to change things around, try to go from a back four to a back three to try and get more width into the game. And by his own admission, that didn't work. But, you know, I think that's good that Jim is doing that. He's obviously looking at ways to try and, you know, get the best out of his players, get the team firing on all cylinders. So a manager that doesn't, you know, be really stubborn and just say, you know, I'm never changing my formation, I'm never changing the way that I play. I think that's a good sign. But we rounded things off with a magnificent goal from young Ryan Duncan. What a player he's turning into. He just made space and just thought, I'm going to have a pop from here. I love that. And obviously the players are being encouraged to do that more, which is great. And I think it's a sign, like Aberdeen, very much a work in progress. A lot of room for improvement. We all know that. But I think it's brilliant that you can win a game 4-1 against a pretty good Partick Thistle team. They were impressive in their attitude and their approach, by the way, because they didn't park the bus. They actually came and had a right good go, and they will be a credit to the Premiership if they get up. But the way the way they played was great. But the way Aberdeen finished the game off was great. And I think I'm back on track now. I lost my thread. You do that as well, don't you? But I'm back on it. I went off at a wee tangent, but I'm back on it. I'm back on it now. I think that it's very positive that Aberdeen can win a game 4-1, and it's still looked on as being, yeah, there's plenty of room for improvement. I think that can be a really positive thing.
To finish off, mate, for me personally, what I really hope for now is that we've got this little run going. Okay, that's back-to-back wins. We've played well in parts of those games. But now what I'm really hoping is that we can kick on. We can get rid of this awful away form, and we can really start to get on a decent run of winning games, because we've still not seen that yet. And I think we desperately need it. So obviously beginning on Saturday, but it's not going to be easy against Motherwell down at Fir Park, because all of a sudden they've just become our bogey team, haven't they?
Yeah, I really like the job that Stevie Hamill's done as manager. He's trying to reshape the way that they play, the way that they think, the way that they approach games. And, you know, they've run both halves of the Old Firm close. Let's take the most recent game against Celtic out of the equation. Celtic are capable of doing that to any side just because they're a wonderful team. And let's be honest, some of the football's a joy to watch unless you're on the receiving end. But, you know, they have done well against both halves of the Old Firm. And they definitely seem to be, in general, a harder team to beat. And, you know, they've got players that can punish Aberdeen as well. But I would settle for any sort of Aberdeen win. And like you say, they need to build things up, because the home record is very good. Pittodrie's turning into a bit of a fortress. Aberdeen are scoring goals for fun. But away from home, it must be one of the worst away records in the country in any division. And, you know, Jim Goodwin will know that is in no way acceptable. And if Aberdeen are going to get to where he wants them to be, and that is top 3, top 4, and constantly reaching semi-finals, finals, winning some silverware, then, you know, they're going to have to improve that record. And Saturday would be a great place to start. And I think Aberdeen owe Motherwell for coming up to Pittodrie and beating them earlier in the season, because Aberdeen, I think we saw a very Jekyll and Hyde's performance there, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, mate. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much, as always. And we shall speak again.
Thank you very much, Ali. All the
bye,
best.
mate. Bye-bye. My thanks, as always, to Dave Galloway. Right, just let me clear up a little slip of the tongue in that interview. I said the capacity should be 20,000 maximum. I meant to say 20,000 minimum. Sorry about that. Right, just let me quickly react to what you're saying about the stadium at the moment. So Noel Blaha has come on. Hi Noel, how you doing? Smaller capacity will create demand. Rather focus on a 16 to 18,000 stadium with more fan amenities than go with 20,000 just for size sake. Perhaps 16 to 18,000 with ability to expand. Dan and Lachie Murison like that idea. And John Bleasdale has said, hi John, I hope that there's scope to increase the capacity in future years if demand meets it. So some really interesting thoughts coming in about the stadium. So many of you have commented about last night's game. But just before I get to that, I thought you'd like to see this. I saw this on Twitter earlier today from Agent Scotland. He's called Inside the SPFL. This is what he tweeted. Aberdeen have scored 40 goals in all competitions already, the second highest by a top flight club so far this season. So I did my checking on that stats, and he's absolutely spot on. We have scored 40 goals already this season. Right, let's read some of the comments about last night's performance. Fraser Gunn has come on and said good evening to everybody. John Bleasdale has said, people say the second half performance wasn't great, but we still could have had another couple of goals. Was encouraged by Ramirez showing some effort, unlucky not to score a couple. Agreed. Scott W has said, we won the game in the first half. I really doubt we'd have been so lax in the second half had it been tighter in the first half. Overall, a very good victory against a decent team. Actually, I have to say, how good were Partick Thistle last night? And they took up 730 fans from Glasgow yesterday. Fair play to them. Kevin Turner has said, good evening, Ali. Good evening back, Kevin. First half was great. Change of shape half-time and not so good, but job done. Doesn't the future look bright with young talents like Ryan coming through? Doesn't it just? Fraser has said, love the energy and dynamism from Coulson. Duke is really good at hitting the target. Even if not scoring, good to see him making the keeper's save. Rod Cow says, fit like Ali, fit like yourself, lad. Duke is a fantastic character for our club. Surely, even if we were to retire tomorrow, he's already a cult hero. He's fast going that way, isn't he? Rob Clark has said, good evening. Hi, Rob. How are you? Rob makes a very interesting point about the semi-final. He says, if Aberdeen beat Rangers in the semi-final in January, during the transfer window, and Celtic win 2, could we then sign outright Liam Scales so he can play against Celtic in the final? I've said this before. We have got to sign Liam Scales on a permanent deal. And I'm hoping that with us getting to the semi-final and then hopefully getting to the final as well, and if we stay in and around the sort of the third or the fourth mark in the league, I think he'll sign. What do you think? Right. Scott Farquhar has said, first half was decent. However, defensively for Thistle goal was worrying. Last clean sheet, Livingston, which again is concerning. Although we are scoring, this still needs to be addressed. Right, guys, keep those comments coming in. We've still got about 10 minutes or so to go on the show, so keep them coming in, and I'll get most of them read out tonight. So let's get some thoughts from some other fans. As you know, I like to actually get you guys on the show, and I was delighted to welcome Reece Sutherland, who's based in Nottingham, to the show, and he gave me his thoughts on last night's game. Hi Rhys, it's really good to see you. Really nice to meet you as well. Thank you for jumping on tonight. So let's start with last night's game. Give us your general thoughts on how we played.
Overall thoughts, I think we had a lot of good plays, especially with our attacking options. Good to see Duke getting a good sniffer on goal. I think that our midfield looked a lot more comfortable on the ball, and especially for the Dundee United game that I watched. I think we looked more comfortable on the ball and looked to have a bit more creativity about them as well, which was good. A bit more defence, solid at the back as well, which looking a lot better than recent games. I think it was an overall good performance. There's still some things to improve on, But I think it's a very good performance from us.
Yeah, we'll come on to the improvements that I needed in just a second. But let me ask you about Duke and about Hayden Coulson as well, who got man of the match last night. These two are proving to be some finds, but I just hope, and I hope you're in agreement, that we can persuade Hayden to stay and actually sign a deal with us once his loan deal is finished. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for the games that I've watched this season, I think he showed the class that he can bring to the team. I think he's very good going forward as well as getting back. But I think going forward, he's got that drive about him. And especially at home, the games I've seen, I'm really liking the way he gets himself forward, bombing forward with the ball in the stranded moments of the game. I think it puts a lot of other teams under pressure when they're defending against him because he just unexpectedly just starts bursting forward with the ball and looking for that extra pass to make. So yeah, I think defensively he's been really good as well. He's good at getting back and keeping himself in decent positions. I think the only game I've seen where he's been a bit poor in his position was the Dundee United game. Obviously, the two goals that were conceded from that down that side, I think he also could have been better. But I think that's really the only time I've seen him where he's been a bit poor at the back. But apart from that moment, I think he's been absolutely fantastic for the squad.
Let's not be too despondent about the victory and about the performance, but I think it would be wrong of us to ignore the second half performance because it wasn't the best, was it?
No, I think we've seen that a few times this season where we've started to. I think it happens mostly at the start of a game where we've started, or the start of a half where we've started being a bit shaky at the back, starting with our passes, struggling to find the pass, the easier options, and just I think struggling to get going. But I think once we get the momentum going, I think we start to play a bit better. But I can't despise, especially when we can see that goal. I think they'll be hugely disappointed with the way the ball went in. Can easily be fixed, but I think we need to remember that going forward into new games that they need to really get better defensively and not just switch off for that defensive moments.
What about Ryan Duncan? That was some goal, eh?
Some goal. I think the games I've seen this season, and I think he does deserve a bit of credit for especially the game time that he's been getting. I think he deserves maybe a bit more. Seeing when he comes on, he has an impact on the game. I think the only games he's really come on really is the cup games or the games that are also not in league. I think at some point he'll probably deserve to get a chance to start in that squad. I think obviously the more he plays, the more he'll develop. He's still young, still got a lot of time to play. I think the more he plays, the better he'll get. Obviously the finish yesterday was just unreal. And I think he gets Livingston in his goal as well, where he's trying to cross it, but still has that quality just to curl it in the back post and put it in. So I think he's definitely got that attacking spirit about him, where he wants to get on the ball, he wants to have an impact on the squad attacking, which is good.
Just to finish off, Rhys, so you're currently down in Nottingham. You're talking to us from Nottingham, where you're down working for a charity organisation called Ambassadors Football. Can you tell me a little bit more about it, please?
Yeah, so I'm down in Nottingham working for this charity in Ambassadors. So basically, the whole idea of Ambassadors is trying to find a mix between football and having a faith. So also sharing, maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but it's about sharing the word of God through football and trying to find how we can relate these two together. And so also we have the camp for these kids who will come, they'll play football, but we'll have a slot where we just share about our own faith and our own testimonies. So yeah, they're quite viral around the whole of the UK, and they have different plants in different countries too. But they have plants in Aberdeen, plants in Glasgow, plants obviously down in Nottingham where I'm based at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the whole idea of it being just trying to share a faith through football and show these kids who God was. And honestly, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's good to resolve the two. And yeah, for the football part of things as well, obviously making sure these kids have fun of their holidays or time off, and it's obviously not a bit like school, which is a bit strict. Give them a bit of free energy that they can use for it as well, which is really good.
Well, Rhys, listen, the very best of luck with the charity. I hope it goes really well for you guys, and thank you for taking the time to come on tonight and give us your thoughts about the game. Really nice to meet you, and hopefully we'll catch up again very soon.
Thanks, Ali.
Bye, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
My thanks to Rhys. A gentle reminder, if you haven't already subscribed and you enjoy what you watch, please feel free to drop us a little subscribe, the little red button. We are only 4 subscribers away from 1,700 subscribers. Thank you so much for your continued support. Right, let's have a quick look and see what happened at the football club on this day. Back in 1982, Aberdeen welcomed Polish League leaders Lech Poznan to Pittodrie for a Cup Winners' Cup second round first leg encounter, and Aberdeen won 2-0. Who was there? Put your hands up, get in touch. Back in 1993, despite taking a 2-goal lead against Italian side Torino in the Cup Winners' Cup second round first leg in Italy, Aberdeen would eventually lose the game 3-2. And do you remember what happened in the second leg? A certain Lee Rico Richardson. And also on this day, back in 1993, Aberdeen win their first league game of the season at the 10th attempt as they beat Motherwell 6-5 in a topsy-turvy game at Fir Park. My goodness, what a game that was. I remember I was still living in Manchester at the time, and I had on Sky Sports News just before they started doing all like the midweek specials, and just seeing the ticker with the goals just rolling in. It was absolutely mental at the 10th attempt. Right, keep the comments coming in because we're just about done. A lot more of you are commenting on last night's game. Charles Craig, hi Charles, how are you? He makes a very good point. Good management at half-time to remove the risk of Miofsky getting a yellow card and missing the semi-final against Rangers. I thought Ramirez did fine, having not had many minutes, and the 45 would have done him good. I have to say, I thought he looked quite bright when he came on yesterday. Jim has come on and said, scored 40 goals due to the League Cup games against rubbish. Jim, you can only play what's in front of you. It's 40 goals, but I take your point. Scott W. has said, we also have to look at how Partick came out all guns blazing at the start of the second half. They had nothing to lose and went for it. That probably caught us off guard. Yeah, it's not a bad point. Rob Clark said, I was at Lech Poznan. I was lucky enough to be at that game as well. Right, guys, we are all done. Thank you so much for watching. As always, we'll be back on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock for the preview show ahead of the Motherwell game. So have a fantastic few days, and I will see you again very soon. Keep an eye on my social media channels for some very interesting content coming up soon. And if you would like to get involved in the show, you know where I am. Drop me a line. I'd love to get you on. Right, chaps, boys and girls, we shall see you all very soon. Bye for now.